Cult classic horror game Deadly Premonition is celebrating its 15th birthday on February 17th.
Really? I feel honored.
Initially released in 2010 under the Japanese title Red Seeds Profile, and its Western release under the title Deadly Premonition, which went on to become the official title of the series worldwide, with the release of Deadly Premonition 2: A Blessing in Disguise.
This is it, Zach. A Deadly Premonition.
But did you know that Deadly Premonition started life off as a different game entirely? The development history of Deadly Premonition goes back as far as the year 2004, where it was initially being developed for the PlayStation 2 as an open-world mystery game starring a female FBI agent.
Did you know that all the worker bees are female?
No.
Guess they didn't teach you that at Quantico.
After reviewing feedback, the developers Access Games changed this unnamed female FBI agent to a male FBI agent.
FBI Special Agent David Young Henning.
Before the team went too far into development on the PlayStation 2, they decided to pivot the project towards the upcoming release of next-generation consoles, the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. For the next few years, Access Games would be working on Project Rainy Woods, with a target release date of sometime in 2008. In 2007, Access Games would reveal to the world their first look at Rainy Woods with a trailer released online. For many years, this trailer and a promotional website were the only pieces of evidence that Rainy Woods ever existed. You see, when the trailer for Rainy Woods released, it caused quite the kerfuffle. Many people online immediately drew comparisons to David Lynch's Twin Peaks, due to the game taking place in a Pacific Northwestern town where a big city FBI agent travels to the small town and takes over the murder investigation of a blonde teenage girl who was loved by everyone in town. Game director Swery65 would adamantly deny the comparisons to Twin Peaks, stating that it was just a coincidence and there were multiple sources of inspiration during the creation of Rainy Woods.
It goes without saying, but David Lynch is a brilliant creative mind, and I respect him. However, it was never my intention to produce a specific homage to any particular work. In fact, my initial idea was for a forensics game in an urban setting. That morphed into the concept of a country setting where city forensics might not work so well. Finally, we arrived at the somewhat supernatural feel of the current game. Deadly Premonition came only as a result of gradual changes to the core of the original idea. With that said, many other works entered my consciousness during the development process, so I can't say I created everything in the game free of outside influence.
Oh yeah, sure. I believe you, Swery. Nothing to see here. After the release of the trailer, all news about Rainy Woods came to a sudden halt. 2008 came and went, and no one was quite sure what had happened to the project. It wasn't until many years later, when Jeff Kramer, the voice actor for David Young Henning and Francis York Morgan, revealed to the world during an interview with Deadly Premonition Archives, shout out Whitney, that the trailer not only caught the attention of fans of Twin Peaks, but producers from the show itself.
What is this with everybody?
No.
What is it? Really?
Only me. It's
Why?
my fault.
I'm serious. Fucking A, man.
You know, the first game actually took even longer than it should have because I had recorded the entire game, and then they ran into some issues with the producers of Twin Peaks. It was Rainy Woods originally, and then I had recorded the whole thing, and then they called me a while later and said, we have to change the game title and we have to change the name of the character. But I had recorded it all, I don't know, it'd probably been a year. And I hadn't heard anything about the game. And then they contacted me and said, here's what's going on. And we need you to come back in the studio and re-record every line where you say either your name or Zeter's name. You know how many times he says his name. So we had to re-record all of that all over again. So it pushed the game out, another year, the first one.
Possibly fearing a copyright lawsuit, Swery65 and his team at Access Games spent the next 2 years taking Rainy Woods back to the drawing board so they could change up some characters and assets and resurrect Rainy Woods under the new title that we all know and love, Deadly Premonition.
Looks like we're being welcomed. Zach, I'll let you handle the meet and greet.
Now, Swery likes to claim that Rainy Woods and Deadly Premonition were two separate entities, that there were too many changes to list, and you should probably just move on with your lives.
Rainy Woods was effectively cancelled. Deadly Premonition began development as a separate project sometime later. The switchover did cause us to redo nearly all the voiceover. Anyway, there were so many changes between Rainy Woods and Deadly Premonition, it would be difficult to talk about them all. Please try to think of them as completely separate entities.
I, for one, was ready to move on from Rainy Woods. That was until a Twitter user by the name NF Studio posted never-before-seen promotional material and 2 video clips of the game. Almost nobody's talking about this, and I've lost many nights of sleep thinking about the possibility of the lost version of Deadly Premonition surfacing 15 years later. This account, New Frontier Studio, worked with Marvelous at the time of Rainy Woods' development. I don't know the extent of what material they have lying around of Rainy Woods, as they've sporadically posted more images and video clips over the past few months, and they've turned off their DMs, so I don't have any good way of contacting them to clarify what they are in possession of, and the other part of me doesn't want to bug them too much in fear of possibly scaring them off the internet and then they'll just stop posting. So we're going to analyze the existing material of Rainy Woods to imagine what could have been. Rainy Woods as a game may be dead, but it's still very much alive in Swery's other works. Let's kick things off with the first clip of Rainy Woods that New Frontier posted. This is a clip of FBI agent David Young Henning driving into Rainy Woods. Most all of the animation is complete in the scene, minus the mouth animations. Veterans of Deadly Premonition will notice that the song that's playing here is an early version of Racing Idiot, aka the legally distinct version of Green Day's American Idiot.
Listen, they both need each other. It's called interdependency, and they both know it.
In Deadly Premonition, the track FBI Special Agent plays here. Some effects are also different in the scene. Notably, there's missing rain effects on the windows outside, and there seems to be some glitching clothing physics on David that aren't present on York. Story-wise, the scene plays out largely the same, with the exception of David's headmate being named Zeter rather than Zach.
We're still fond of the civilized world. Just like you, Zeter. Just like you. You see this? I got this when I arrested the Catwoman wannabe. Women. They're crazy. Don't you agree, Zach?
As you all know by now, the character of David Young Henning was replaced by Francis York Morgan in Deadly Premonition. But that didn't mean David Young Henning is missing from Deadly Premonition. Oh no. Instead of throwing out a perfectly good character model, what Swery decided to do was take David Young Henning's model, darken the top half of his face, and rename the character to Brian Xander Morgan, who is Francis's father. But David Young's legacy doesn't end there, as the succession of the name David Young was transferred over to the protagonist of Swery's other game, D4, Dark Dreams Don't Die.
My name is David Young, former knock with the Boston PD.
Which, as of Deadly Premonition 2, is officially in the same world as Deadly Premonition / Rainy Woods. And if you're starting to get chronologically confused, don't worry, I have you covered. I made a whole documentary about that beautiful canceled mess, which will catch you up to speed regarding the Sweryverse.
All right, Zapatero, I'm knocking this one out of the park.
No hitting back at the picture.
The second clip he posted takes place in the Galaxy of Terror. Up front, there are a few key differences in the Rainy Woods version, notably different lighting effects, which makes Carol's feather boa look pink under the light instead of red. Speaking of the feather boa, they seem to have applied some physics to it, which seem rather unstable in the Rainy Woods build. They've also applied a bit of focal blur in the Rainy Woods version, and that blur is missing in Deadly Premonition, presenting a larger and clearer depth of field. The song that Carol is singing in this scene is different in Rainy Woods. Here she's singing a song called Pillow Stains. Whereas in Deadly Premonition, she's singing Miss Stiletto Heels. This is an important change because Miss Stiletto Heels bears some significance to the character of George Woodman.
George, that scar on your cheek. Where did you get it?
This? Didn't I tell you? Well, it's not from work. I got it when I was a kid.
A childhood injury.
It was my mother. She did it.
I'm sorry, George.
Speaking of our old pal, we get a better look at the Rainy Woods version of George Woodman, who seems quite content with Carol's performance. This is the happiest George Woodman has ever looked. Now, even though George's character model was replaced in Deadly Premonition, that doesn't mean the Rainy Woods model went to waste. OG George Woodman still appears in Deadly Premonition, only as an entirely separate character, named Richard Dunn, the owner and operator of Bar Swery 65. They just gave him a ponytail and a new set of clothes, but it's the same George from Rainy Woods. Swery 65, fair use extraordinaire.
You're York, right? I'm Richard Dunn, the owner of the darts bar, Swery 65.
Now, during the production of this video, I've arrived at the conclusion that referring to Rainy Woods as Lost Media is a bit of a misnomer. Even though Swery has claimed that Rainy Woods and Deadly Premonition were two entirely separate entities, I'm not entirely convinced that's the truth. I think that basically everything he wanted to do in Rainy Woods eventually carried over into Deadly Premonition, only slightly switched around. There are still some remnants of Rainy Woods in DP, such as this sign for Rainy Woods real estate. Oh, and I should mention, the town of Rainy Woods also went through a succession of the name, as it appears in Swery's recent game, The Good Life, good is in quotes by the way, where our protagonist Naomi Hayward visits the happiest town on Earth.
Well, this is it. Rainy Woods. Enjoy your holiday then.
What a goddamn hellhole.
I was curious enough to dig through all of Deadly Premonition to see if the scenes from the Rainy Woods trailer existed in the final game. And what do you know? Every single scene from the Rainy Woods trailer appears in Deadly Premonition, with the same exact animations, camera angles, graphics for the most part, but just different character models and slight dialogue changes. I'm gonna let this side-by-side play through, and then we're gonna break it down.
FBI Special Agent David Young Henning. Injuries happened very quickly. But this is still a big lead. She's trying to speak.
We don't have time, Thomas. Cut that wire. Get out of the way! I'll do it! Stop!
Mr. David Young Henning won't lead you to what you seek.
Could you wait just a little longer?
This won't take long.
I finally got to see the real Rainy Woods.
First scene where David whips out his badge to show to Emily Wyatt, still there. The autopsy of Anna Graham, absolutely nothing has changed except for the character model. Scene in the Red Room where two little men are standing in a red curtain room saying, "Red tree, red tree." Both the environment and the characters have been changed in Deadly Premonition. The Red Room itself doesn't bear any red curtains, and the little men have been replaced with the twins Isaac and Isaiah dressed as angels. This change was likely made due to its striking similarity to the Black Lodge of Twin Peaks. The death of Becky Ames does have a few changes. Notably, Rainy Woods has proto-George Woodman and David Young Henning in place of York. As the legend goes, the original death of Becky Ames was considered too shocking and brutal when it was first viewed, and allegedly Access Games toned down this scene scene for Deadly Premonition. Even in its censored form, it's quite the brutal murder. If any part of Rainy Woods is considered lost media, it's the more gruesome version of Becky's murder that was cut. I hope it surfaces one day. The introduction of Harry Stewart is the exact same in both versions, with the exception of Michael referring to David as Mr. Francis York Morgan in Deadly Premonition. The Red Room scene in the prologue is different than Deadly Premonition for the aforementioned reasons, but the dialogue remains the same. And the final scene takes place during a spoiler for Deadly Premonition. But I will point out, David Young Henning says a bit of dialogue that doesn't exist in Deadly Premonition, and it's a great way to close out this video.
I finally got to see the real Rainy Woods.
Happy 15th anniversary, Deadly Premonition. Thanks to everyone for watching this strange video about a piece of lost media that's been plaguing my mind all these years later. But that's not all. If you want to know more about Deadly Premonition and the greater Swearyverse, I got a whole playlist right here that you can just click on. Spend a whole afternoon learning a bunch of pointless trivia. Also subscribe, comment, like, dislike, whatever floats your boat. I've been Hikiko, and I'll see you all next time.